It's the Underpowered Hour. On this week's show, Range Rover gets a new logo, tariffs affect JLR's first quarter sales, and then we talk all about the right tools to bring on your next road trip. And now, without further delay, here's the show. Welcome to the Underpowered Hour. I'm Steve Beres, mild-mannered television executive by day and Land Rover collector by night. You can find out more about our cars and what we're working on at theberescollection.com or follow us on Instagram at theberescollection. I'm joined, as always, by my good friend, Goss.
Thank you to everyone joining us today. I'm the traditional logo to Steven's trust mark. I am the instantly recognizable host of podcasting, Ike Goss. I own and operate Pangolin 4x4 in Springfield, Oregon, where we live and breathe Land Rovers. Check us out online on Facebook, Instagram at Pangolin 4x4. Let's get started.
All right, Ike. Well, this week in Land Rover news, first up, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the new Range Rover logo. As of late,
I feel like it's critical.
Our friends at JLR have been doing a lot around logos that are
branding logos.
Yeah, trusted, recognizable, long-standing logos that seemingly weren't doing anything wrong. They were just there and being recognized, and people were liking them. But sometimes you need to get in there and meddle. Maybe some would say for no reason. And, it seems the public opinion on the new Range Rover logo meets that criteria. So much so that the folks over at the Motor One website, which we reference often, the article is titled, Range Rover's new logo is goofy as hell.
That's a little harsh, I think that's clickbait. That's clickbait. Come on.
That's clickbait. But it isn't.
That's clickbait.
Not goofy. I think, describe it to me if you will. What is the Range Rover, the new Range Rover logo? What does it evoke in you from an emotional standpoint?
When I first saw it, I immediately thought of pirates.
Ooh. Because there's two R's on top of each other? It's true. It's true. It looks like somewhere between a belt buckle and, I think you said a high-end, bag brand logo.
Yeah, I think that a lot of the luxury brands have this sort of reductive, logo that they often use in patterns on their goods, right?
Yes.
And we're seeing this. They sort of have a chainmail made out of this
of little
Range
R's.
Rover stuff of little R's. Yeah,
little R's. Yeah,
and it's the same thing. You see it with the Balenciaga, the Gucci, the Louis Vuitton, the Chanel. All those have sort of a very reductive letter-based logo.
Yep.
And this seems like sort of, in and among that ilk. They're really going for that. The press release thing, it's like gold. The R's are gold.
Yeah. It's
plated,
it's best because they're gold.
It's gold. It's gold.
Yeah, it's gold.
So they're trying to project luxury. So I'm expecting they're going to try to move the Range Rover further up market so that they have maybe room for Discovery somewhere. What do you think?
Maybe. Maybe all Discovery's missing is an obscure logo. Maybe that's why people aren't buying it. But it is interesting. One thing that comes to mind when you talk about Dolce & Gabbana and all those sort of brands is they've had that logo since the 1940s. They haven't just recently decided to change their logo. In fact, one of the weird things is that car brands traditionally don't touch their logo at all unless they have to. They keep it very much the same because it's a brand ID thing, right? You don't, Mercedes has had the crosshair for, forever. And, BMW, all these other brands have had that same. Ford has had that same cursive logo for forever.
Yeah.
It's interesting to now, after the Jaguar rebranding and the sort of public reaction, let's say, to that, to say, you know what, that went so well, let's do it to the Range Rover. Interesting choice.
Certainly, among automotive brands, I feel like the logos stay similar for a long time. I do feel like when you're trying to move a vehicle up market, though, they do change. So like Kia,
Right.
some of the others have changed.
That's true.
In recent years, Kia used to be like a very entry model brand. They've moved that quite a bit up market, and in doing so, I think they've changed the logo. And a lot of times there's some retouching on the logos.
For sure. Absolutely.
The Land Rover logo used to be quite a bit different. It used to have the zigzag, and it was the commas, and so on and so forth. So they do retouch it, make it a little so.
Yeah, kind of modernize it. This is
this is a drastic change. Used to be sort of a word mark,
just literally the word mark.
Said Range Rover.
Yeah,
and now people, if you saw this outside of its context, would you associate it with the brand?
Certainly not. I mean, I think you would think this is a high-end clothing brand that you've never heard of.
Would you maybe think Rolls-Royce? Would you mean something else?
Point. Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. You're right. Just having the double R's, a lot of things are double R's. And this is gold, which, is also very fancy. It's best because it's gold. I think that's a
So on a scale of 1
logic.
to 10, where would you rate this rebrand here for the Range Rover?
I would rate it somewhere between getting rid of the Land Rover logo and the Jaguar logo. I think it's right in between. To be fair, those are all bad. So this is sort of
maybe those were just subterfuge and seems good because it's less bad than those.
It's less bad. Yeah, it is. It's less bad. Yeah. Well, it does beg the question: is there going to be a Land Rover mark on cars that are considered Range Rovers going forward, or will this mark be what replaces that Land Rover mark? We know that Professor Monsignor Jerry Maguire Esquire wants to have the Land Rover badge, sort of removed from Range Rover, has wanted that for a long time, right? And maybe this is this is a replacement for that.
Immediately after that press release where they're like, oh yeah, we're getting rid of the Land Rover logo, they were like, oh, actually, our cars will still have that as a trust mark.
Forget about it. Yeah. So
they backpedaled pretty quickly on that. So it'll be interesting to see what the reaction is to this, but it is very different, and only time will tell. Will people associate this new logo with Range Rover?
Yeah. Well, speaking of logos and the car company that they belong to, His Majesty's JLR, unfortunately, U.S. sales down 15.1% in the first quarter of this year, and that is being blamed entirely on, you guessed it, the U.S. 25% car tariff and the subsequent JLR halting of imports because of it. So no surprise there. That's what's going to happen when you don't bring cars in and then don't sell those cars. And also, people are not sure about buying cars because they are more expensive. Because I don't know if this is obvious to people, but tariffs are a tax, and the consumer of that good pays taxes. So
yeah, it's a super confusing time right now because the government is issuing these press releases, most notably one particular government employee press releases where they say, Japan is going to start paying, and that's how they're wording it. But the reality is, Japan's not paying anything.
No, they don't pay anything at all. That's not how it works. No, that's right. That's right. If Japan was to put a tariff on the United States, Japan would be paying. The people of Japan would be paying. That's how that works. But it's interesting. If you like higher taxes, I guess this is the administration for you.
We're getting more for that, right? Our services.
No, we're reducing services as well.
Oh, shoot.
And billions of dollars have been collected in taxes against import tariffs in the last 3 months. So there you go. That's our money, by the way. That's tax. That's tax revenue is what that is. Yeah, there you go. But, hopefully with any luck, there will be, now that they have sort of figured out a better system, I guess, for tariffs, that there is going to be a number for which you can import, I believe it's 100,000 UK manufactured vehicles per year before a higher tariff rate will kick in. That higher rate is 27.5%, by the way, which is actually higher than the rate that they imposed across the board. And of course, that is still subject to the universal 10% tax on everything that comes into the country. I think I'm going to stop using the word tariff and just use the word tax. I think it's just easier to explain that way. So there's a universal 10% tax on everything coming in from the UK.
Do we know how many cars are exported from the UK to the USA
That's a great question. I
previous
don't know.
to this? Like
don't know
what
the
was
answer to
the
that.
standard
I don't know.
average or whatever? There's not too many UK car manufacturers left. We got
No.
Rolls-Royce, we got Morgan, we got Land Rover, and Land Rover by and large is the
Yeah.
largest.
And I don't think they are really moving that needle.
Not significantly. I don't know, like maybe 1,000 or 2,000 cars.
Yeah.
They're pretty hand built, those things.
Yeah, they're just the greatest cars. Oh, apparently, estimated count for 2024
Okay.
was 106,000 vehicles.
So it
And,
shouldn't make much of a difference, but it doesn't leave much room for growth. So how
That's
do you
exactly right, yeah.
How do you grow at that stage? You raise prices. So
That's exactly right.
So I think, the UK manufacturers are going to look to move their cars up market so that they can make the same amount of money and stay within this, this cap.
Yep. And that's roughly about $9.8 billion in 2024, which accounted for 4.5% of the U.S. car market. Now, that was derived from ChatGPT, so that may all be made up. We don't know.
Yeah.
But the robots,
It's something to go off of.
But it didn't call itself Robo Hitler. Well, it told me that.
That
So
happened recently, I heard.
Oh, Mecha Hitler. Yeah, Mecha Hitler.
Hitler.
Oh, yeah. That's a different podcast, but good times. Go look that up. That's great things happening
Skynet's
there.
coming.
It's coming. And then finally, speaking of Skynet, if Skynet were to be a car, I think it would be in the storied tradition as of late of Jaguar Land Rover releasing super blacked out murdery cars. The Octa, everyone's favorite Defender, will be available soon in a black edition, just like the SV Range Rover. Oh yeah,
I didn't see that coming.
it's going to be black on black. In fact, completely invisible if parked in a dark parking lot. You can't even see it. You just run right into it. It's like a bird into a pane of glass.
You need to blip the remote several times to find it.
To find it, yeah, exactly. You got to put little stickers on it so people don't just walk into it in the dark.
The movie that we talked about a couple episodes ago,
That's right.
Locked, the car in that film looks a lot like the Octa Black.
It really does. It essentially is. It may be a tie-in with the film where you'll be able to remotely lock in vagabonds and assailants and then drive them around London in a remotely controlled murder spree. That's an options package you can fit to that Octa Black. But yeah, it's everything that you love about the Octa, but black. So if you're into it, it's that same.
So what do we get? What do we get in this Octa Black package?
Sounds like later this year. Their Octa orders are still slowly trickling in. So Land Rover loves to do an edition before they're even able to deliver the edition they're on right now. So this one, I imagine, if you want an Octa Black, get to your local Defender dealer today and put in your order, because I think this is, again, limited. Like the SV is limited. They don't say how many they're limited to, but they are apparently a limited run of these black cars.
I mean, in the sense that anything is limited,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Like
I mean,
we're
they're
only
only
going to
gonna
make
make it
as many as we make.
As many as we make, yeah. The first edition was also limited, but I think it's just limited to the cars they made the first year. So
let's say I had a Russian mercenary force and I wanted to outfit them with vehicles.
yeah, you would. Yeah,
I would
this
need
is
to order
exactly it.
these as soon as possible.
That's exactly right. Yeah, if you're planning an incursion into a foreign territory in stealth black Octa,
I feel like this is
Defenders.
like a private army for like oligarchs type of vehicle. Like
is,
anytime
100%.
you see Russian bad guys in a movie, they're driving black Range Rovers or black
on black.
Defenders.
Yeah. So they finally, I mean, it makes sense that JLR has insourced that now. I mean, there's money they're leaving on the table there by having third parties black out those cars and just do it themselves, sell directly to the Russian mob now. So
From my understanding, these are going to cost around 170 grand for the black edition.
something like that. Yes, to have
Standard Octa is like 150, right? And then
That's
this
right, yeah.
black one is 170.
And hopefully they're going to get to this storied $125,000 like Octa you could actually take off road and not feel bad about it. But jury's still out on when that will arrive. This may be like, remember Pandemic Defender, where we had only editions. And then they were always like $200,000. So
I think that's the direction we're going with this cap. It's happening.
I think it's a pretty good indication that we're, when are we going to get the special Defender logo that's just like a bunch of D's? I think it'll look like a capital B. Just two D's
it's going to
on top of
happen.
each other.
It's going to happen.
For sure. I can't wait. A pair of sunglasses, kind of look like that, like emoji sunglasses. Anyways, that's all for the blacked out Land Rovers for this week.
Speaking
Stay
of
tuned
black.
for next week when.
Speaking of black, apparently Land Rover is instituting a policy of using recycled tires. I read.
Oh, interesting.
Recycled tires. 70% recycled content.
Interesting. So they'll be used when you get them.
Yeah, I was going to say the tires on my car
tires.
are 100% recycled content.
I was going to say, yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're just used. Yeah,
Bought them used off of Craigslist.
it's fine. Yeah, it's just like there's zero carbon footprint there. I mean, there was, but it was like a long time ago.
It was a while
You're
ago.
fine. Yeah, you're
It was a
fine.
while ago.
Yeah, well, that's good. Well, speaking of new tires, it's that time of year where the weather gets nice and the call of the open road is heard by Land Rover owners all over the country. And I think a few people are planning some trips. Obviously, Justin and our good friends over there at Lucky 8, along with Joe from Lost Cause Ranch, Bob Steele, and a bunch of other great folks, all just made a cross-country trip in their Freelanders and other various Range Rovers. And
Did they make it in Freelanders?
I mean,
Did any of the Freelanders make it across country?
a Freelander made it here and just left, actually, just yesterday to go back across country to Justin, where he will be dipping it in bronze and hanging it outside of Lucky 8, I believe. So
I feel like this is that situation in that one guy like took a bus in the marathon, like he drives it outside of town, puts it on a trailer, tows it across the country, unloads it outside of town on the other side and drives it into town. And he's like, look, drove it across the country.
Again, these cars, Joe's made it about halfway before it didn't make it. Now, Justin's did make it the entire way, but it didn't make it back, and it was towed from the coast up to my shop. But it did make it coast to coast under its own power. Now, it may not ever make it anywhere else, but it did make the trip.
I'm impressed.
It did make the trip. Yeah,
that's an incredible journey.
So
I've seen the movie Incredible Journey with the animals, the dogs and stuff.
That's right.
But this is way more incredible.
Homeward Bound, but with Freelanders. It's great. Yeah, it was great. So if you are, however, planning a trip this year, especially over the summer, probably makes sense to have a bit of kit with you to make that trip a little more pleasurable if you do have any trouble with your highly reliable Land Rover. And we thought maybe we'd quickly talk a little bit about what to put in your road trip or overlanding kit for this summer's Land Rovering adventuring.
What do you like to bring, Stephen?
Well, I think, obviously the obvious things, but some things that I probably bring that are, I don't know, maybe something that people don't necessarily always have with them is I have a big, I don't want to call it a fetish, but I have a large investment in aircraft safety wire and the pliers that can mouse, which is what we call it in Canada, that wire together in a rapid and convenient fashion. I use it all over the place because it is heat resistant like crazy. You can get it incredibly hot and you can get it really tight. So, you kind of use it I use it in place of zip ties a lot because they obviously they don't hold up to heat. They can break easy. So, I have a bunch of different gauges of it, not just the ones that you would maybe lash your valves and then safety wire them off. But I have, I always keep a couple little containers, little spools of safety wire with me. And I have a tiny pair of the safety wire pliers, the rapid deployment safety wire pliers. And I got to say, super handy. That's one of those things.
That's silly.
Like that?
I like it. I love it, in fact, but it is silly. And would you say you safety wire things on your average road trip?
Actually, I would say probably once per road trip. For instance, I think, let's see, last time while bringing Ted down from your place, I think we wanted a little secondary look at the temperature of the engine. Okay. So I have one of those touch temperature probes. Okay. And I safety wired it onto the thermostat housing of Ted and put my digital thermometer inside the car and could keep just because the gauges are, we didn't really know.
Yeah.
They're old. And so it's a nice double check for things like that. So it works really good for like attaching sensors and things to the motor. It works really good if you have, for instance, a hose or something that has come dislodged or is loose or something, and you don't maybe have a hose clamp with you, or the hose clamps you have don't quite work or don't quite get tight enough. Works quite nicely for that. And even if you have little flappy rattles and things, you can kind of cinch it down with that little guy and kind of get it nice and tight. And you can get it into really tiny spaces because the wire itself is really rigid, right? So you can kind of make a little U and sort of slide it into things. And yeah, it works really good. I'm a big fan.
Wire.
I'm a big fan of the safety wire. Yep.
I like it. So when you say, the stuff that you would normally bring, there may be a lot of people who don't know what that is. What would you normally bring?
Yeah,
what are the things that like the average person might consider bringing?
You and I share a fondness for a particular tool roll that contains, a set of basic hand tools for your Land Rover. I always have 2 of every size of spanner, because, you might need to hold the other side of a bolt as well as the front side. I usually have one ratcheting side, like one ratchety one and one just normal one. I actually have some really nice ones from, I want to say they're Craftsman ones from like the 70s, maybe the 80s, that are double-sided and are really nice open box wrenches that are double-sided. So they don't take up a lot of room, but they're every size metric and imperial. And
when you say
really
double-sided, you mean it's like 1/2 inch and 9/16? Is that what you mean? They're like consecutive sizes?
Exactly right. Yeah. And so that's why I have one set of those and then another set of full size with the ratcheting end on them. And, that really gets the job done when it comes to wrenching. I also bring a socket set with me, obviously, with all the right sockets for all the bolts that are in my car, as opposed to just the one you get from Harbor Freight and then dump it into a bag. I make sure that you actually have, because it's often you're not going to have every size that you need in that thing. I have a couple of like wheel socket specific ones, specifically for wheel nuts. And I don't use a tire iron. I have a breaker bar that I bring with me because I can change my wheel nuts with that, but I could also get a stubborn, I don't know why I would have to get the head off the car or something. I could, because you don't just have a breaker bar, or you don't just have a tire iron, rather.
I have a 1/2 inch flexible Mac ratchet that I use for lug nuts and spark plugs or whatever.
Yeah.
And you can cut down on the amount of that sort of stuff that you have to carry if you have a couple of adapters, like 1/2 to 3/8 adapters, and just kind of limit. You take everything you need, but limit the number of individual items that you need.
And then I have a nice set of pliers, pretty good. I almost always have a Gerber multi-tool with me.
Do you like the Nipx? Is that your brand of choice for the pliers?
Yeah, Nipx is my go-to, as I think it is for most fancy people, for most fancy boys. Because the Nipx Positive pressure pliers, which is their patented thing. You can buy a knockoff now at Harbor Freight in a bunch of places because I guess that patent has aged, but there's nothing like it. I mean, they're really an incredible invention, and they take the place of 2 or 3 different tools. They're really a really good thing, really good stuff. Especially the ones that are kind of beaky. They look like a little bird, like an angry bird. Those things, Jesus, you get them on something and they're on there. It's great.
They're on there. You like locking pliers? You like the vice grips?
I do like a vice grip.
The bolt rounders.
Yeah, the old bolt rounder. Yeah, I usually have one big set of vice grips with me and 1 or 2 tiny little ones. And often I'm using them more to hold things, especially things that are going to get hot or something, than I am to actually round off bolts. Because although sometimes, a vice grip is the only way.
I have a related question.
Yeah.
Those are referred to as mole grips in the UK. Do you know why?
That's right. And why is that?
I don't know. I'm asking you.
Oh, darn it. Because you get you catch moles with them?
I
because they're for removing moles from one's body? You just
maybe
clip
has
them on there
with the mole unit of measurement.
Oh, could be, yeah. Or like a Mole Richardson, like the lighting company.
Anyway, if anyone knows why they're called mole grips, reach out and tell us.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah, vice grip's pretty self-explanatory here. Yeah.
Makes more sense to me.
What else? What hand tools do you bring with you?
I like to bring a file. So there'll be a bolt or something has a burr on it, something sharp.
Something you just use vice grips on.
Yeah, something I've just used vice grips on. I can just file it down.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things a file is good for. So I like to use, those are sort of some of the overlooked things, a chisel, a file, a punch.
Yep. No punch.
I don't think you don't see those in a lot of toolkits for some reason. Usually you've got wrenches covered, sockets, you got that covered, screwdrivers, you got that covered. But some of those things to, improvise,
Yep.
improvisational things. And that goes to, some people bring a spare part, concerned about their vehicle in some way or another. They'll bring an extra water pump or an extra carburetor or something like that. But to repair things, I like your safety wire or baling wire, sort of
bailing
idea.
wire, the same.
The types of tape or sealant, those things where you can just fix something, some sort of gasket material where you can fix something that's leaking.
Yep. I have a little sheet of cork and a couple sheets of different thicknesses of gasket rubber. And because sometimes you end up just out there whittling a little gasket to fix a leak or to fix a little vacuum thing. Yep. Yeah, for sure.
And it sounds like this is a lot of stuff, but it doesn't really take up that much space.
No, and when it comes to super glue, to acrylate glue, I get a little accelerator. I have a little pump bottle that will cure super glue on instantly on contact, and that I find I use a lot for electrical connections that are very brittle and old, but I just don't, for whatever reason, I keep a little kind of cup of those, little crimp-on things so that, if an end breaks, I can put a new one on or something. But in some cases, especially if it's a casing thing or something where the connector's okay, but maybe it's shorting against something, a little SA glue on there and a little accelerator, and it's instantly cured. It creates almost like a little poor man's plastic over it, and it's really handy.
I like to bring beverages sometimes.
Yeah,
it's good.
like a LaCroix.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or a Topo Chico.
Yeah, it's always a Topo Chico. Yeah, I was going to say, you always have a Topo Chico with you. Yeah, Ike is famous for, you'll look over and he's sitting calmly and seemingly without anything, and then you look back and he will have a Topo Chico somehow.
It's true.
Produced from we don't know where.
It's one of our sponsors.
Yeah, it should be, right?
Yeah.
Nando's flavored Topo Chico. Ooh, period Topo Chico. I'll do a little hybrid.
I'm not sure how refreshing that would be.
I don't know either, but you get the sponsors where you can get them,
So, are you a card guy or a dice guy?
I am only dice.
I like
dice.
If you get stuck in some road construction or something, just break out the dice.
Yep, I'm a big dice fan.
Waiting for the tow truck, break out the...
I also, though, I do have a deck of cards because they often work good for shims. They work good for you can gap
gauge.
things with them. Yeah. So I do have a deck of cards in there, but I have yet to.
5,000. That's usually a playing card, right?
Yeah, 5,000. Yeah. So you can stack 2. You can you can get
points cap is 3 cards, right?
3 cards. So you can get to a point where I don't know that I would go cross country based on that measurement, but you could sure get out of trouble if you had to replace here. And it seems as though, and I think you said it before, right? Improvising is the key, right? What do you need to be able to MacGyver your way out of something? Because you could literally have a spare engine with you and your transmission would die. It doesn't matter. Sure. It's like whatever part you don't have is the part you're going to have. And so better to plan to fix or to patch together or to be ready to make the car go until you can get to the part that you need, as opposed to bringing just bring another car with you worth of parts.
What about tire stuff? We should have a whole segment on tire stuff. But what do you like to bring for tire stuff?
I bring a sidewall patch kit, which is basically super glue and a piece of tire rubber and some sandpaper and some of that sort of stuff. And sidewall punctures are the ones where it's sometimes really tough. You're not supposed to put plugs in it and stuff, but there is a company now that does make a really good off-road specific sidewall patch, and the girls have used it on the Rebel. We've used it on many off-road events. Called? Works great. I knew you were going to ask me that, and I can't remember, but I'm gonna find it. And then I do a whole patch, like a little tire patch kit. I get some of those, the wormy dealies, and wormy dealies, and a couple of pins.
Plugs? You like the plugs?
I have a couple different plugs that I use. Coincidentally, I don't know if you do, but for your motorcycle, do you use the little gun that shoots the little mushroom into your tire?
I have not used those.
Those, I find they don't work great for car tires because the tread is just too deep and beefy, and they're just not, you can't really get in there with them. But for motorcycle tires, like dirt bike tires, they work super good. And it's a little tiny pack you can just, throw in a saddlebag, and it's almost all you need for your motorcycle.
What are those things called?
I don't know. I don't know.
I like the plugs. I like to bring a compressor.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a big one. I like to have one. I used to bring in just a tire pump, like a bicycle pump for car tires, but it would take forever.
Yeah,
it just takes a long time.
Yeah, it's tough. We on the the rally cars all carry CO2. They carry a full size CO2 bottle because airing up is time constraint, and you want to make sure you can air up and down quickly. And so, yeah, I'll bring a little bottle of like vulcanizing fluid and a little thing of like vulcanizing compound or vulcanizing putty, and you can just kind of do it, and it'll seal up some crazy stuff. The sidewall patch, by the way, is made by a company called Glue Tread.
Yep.
Glue Tread.
Glue Tread. I have heard of them.
Yeah, it's great. It's really great stuff. And they also have traditional patch kits where you can use little needles and patch her up. And then they also have a CO2-based, tiny CO2 bottle-based rapid inflator and stuff. So that's kind of cool. But honestly, you can't use vulcanizing cement and then like go and drive on that tire right away. It takes quite a while to dry. So I would change the tire off to the spare and then vulcanize some major repair. But again, I try to only use the spare as the absolute last resort, right? I will patch a tire to an absurd degree before I will switch to that spare. Because really, once you've committed to using your spare, you no longer have a spare unless you're carrying 2 tires. But I tend to patch until there is no more. There's no more tire. It's just patches. It's just made out of patches.
Definitely had some unfortunate tire failures. I had a tire at some brand new PFG mud terrains that I took through a canyon, and they had like 10 miles on them, and I put a hole in the sidewall of one of them. It's like, oh no, very disappointing. But it has plugs in it, and it's a few years down the road, and it's
still going strong.
But one of these days, I'm gonna be driving along the highway, and it'll probably blow out, and I'll die. But
yeah, you go out doing what you love. Yeah. Now, there's also, have you ever used, they call them tire screws or tire nails? It's like the military uses them extensively. And they're essentially they're like a little stud, like threaded. I think they're made of rubber plastic, and they have like an Allen on the end of them, and you literally screw them into the hole. You sort of put this, I imagine it's sea igloo or something.
It's like a drywall anchor kind of?
It is. It looks like a drywall anchor. Yeah, exactly right.
Is it a drywall anchor?
It may just be a drywall anchor dipped in rubber. But I've never tried them. I don't know if they work or not, but they do exist. And the military uses those extensively because they're very easy to put in.
The military is just starting to get kickbacks from these products, I'm pretty sure.
That's exactly right. Yeah. If their vehicles don't have run flat tires on them, which a lot of them do, but they do still patch some stuff. So there you go.
Well, if you have items that you like to bring on road trips, drop us a line. Tell us what you like to bring.
Yeah.
Love to hear from you.
Yeah, it's a good, everybody's got something a little special that they like, and that's cool. Good for you. Sometimes I'll bring a full-size jack, depending on...
A full-size jack? What do you mean by a full-size?
Like
I've never seen
jack.
a half-size jack. Oh,
instead of like a bottle jack, right? I'll bring one of those off-road ones from Harbor Freight.
Okay.
And it's great. It's cool. It's heavy as all get out.
And they have they have a lot of like racks and holders for that type of stuff nowadays.
Yep.
That you can mount it to your vehicle and have a jack on your car.
I'll tell you, if you've pumped up or screwed one of those little, built-in jacks that you get with your car versus 4 pumps on your full-size jack, especially if you're changing tires a lot, if you're going on, or if you're on an event, right, and maybe you're supporting your local Land Rover club or something, having that, man, real easy. I also, for that reason, bring a welder that can be powered off of a Delta battery.
This sounds like more than a road trip. This sounds like vehicle support.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So we at our big Rover Rendezvous event every year, we bring the Delta powered, which is like the EcoFlow, that big EcoFlow battery. There is a Lincoln welder. Is it a Lincoln or is it a Miller? One of the two. I think it's a Miller. And it's literally built into like a little Pelican case. And it will run off of the 220 that those things can put out. And you can effectively, you're not building a skyscraper with that thing, but you can effect some pretty fantastic repairs. And you could do it on the trail if you had to. We usually don't. We usually drag the car back to the base camp and then do it there. But you could if you needed to.
Sweet. I love it.
Yeah. All right. Well, my friend, that is it for this week. And if you have suggestions, comments, concerns, criticisms on the old road kit for your road trip, then why not drop us a line? Let us know.
If you have complaints, send them to the Center Steer podcast.
That's exactly right. Care of John Cossage at centersteer.com. So enjoy that. All right, my friend, have a wonderful week. And when I next speak to you, I will be in London. So we'll have to use that undersea cable for the
Looking
next
forward
show.
to it.
Cheers
See
for
you
now.
then. Bye.
The The Underpowered Hour is produced by Liza Beres, Ike Goss, and me, Steve Beres. Pavel Svardov composed and performed our theme music. Consider supporting the show on Patreon, and if you already do, thank you. Your support makes the show possible. For even more, check out our Instagram or Facebook.